Game 4 of the League Championship Series in Seattle. The pitchers are a pair of right-handers, and that is where the similarities end. For the Yankees, the Rocket, Roger Clemens, 5-time winner of the Cy Young Award, 260 career victories. Twice he struck out 20 batters in a single game, a member of the All-Century team, a certain first ballot Hall of Famer. For the Mariners, Paul Abbott, 239 fewer wins, 3,200 fewer strikeouts. At age 33, he's just completed his first full season in the big leagues. But in Game 4, Abbott will face his greatest challenge. He must stifle a rejuvenated Yankee offense that scored 15 runs in the last 2 games. If Abbott can somehow shock Clemens and the Yanks, he'll square the series at 2. But if he can't, the Mariners may be at the point of no return. Game 4 next.
This is the Sun America NBC pregame show. The 2000 American League Championship Series. Tonight, Game 4, the New York Yankees versus the Seattle Mariners.
Beautiful day in the Pacific Northwest, 55 degrees and sunny, and thus the roof is open at Safeco Field. Tickets hard to come by. Got Mojo, that's their theme. Dr. Evil may have had to pay a scalper as much as $1 million for a ticket today. A festive atmosphere at this beautiful ballpark. They're ready to roar, hoping that their team can even the issue at 2. And we welcome you to Seattle for Game 4 with Joe Morgan. I'm Bob Costas. Yeah, there we are. Hi again, everybody. If there is a single blemish on the career resume of Roger Clemens, it has to be his postseason record. After coming on very strong after the All-Star break and probably being the Yankees' best regular season pitcher in the season's second half, he faltered against Oakland in the division series, especially in his Game 4 start when he was clobbered.
But that doesn't even tell the true story about Roger Clemens. His teams have lost 10 of the 14 starts that he has made in postseason play, and he's personally lost 3 and won 5 of the 5 games he's lost. But Roger Clemens is a power pitcher, and all power pitchers have to hit their spots. Roger has been missing his spots, and when he does that, he allows the hitters to sit on fastballs and hard stuff because they know that's all he's going to throw. But Roger is always capable of overpowering the opposition because he has such great stuff.
His opponent, well, Paul Abbott. Pretty much an agate-type name until this postseason. He was able to defeat the White Sox in the division series. He's been on the disabled list 10 times in his career. He's been with 6 different organizations. Wouldn't even be in the postseason rotation. He'd be their long man, but for an injury to Jamie Moyer.
But Lou Piniella tells me that he really likes this matchup. And the reason he likes this matchup is because Abbott has a great changeup. And in order to keep the Yankee left-handed hitters off balance, he needs to use the changeup. He also has a great sinking fastball, so he matches up very well against the Yankees.
Even if Abbott does well, the Mariners have to score some runs. That's on Lou Piniella's mind as he visits with Jim Gray.
The Mariners are 4 for 22 with men in scoring position. Lou, any explanation as to why you have missed so many opportunities?
Well, the Yankees have good pitching, number one. We've been a little cold with the bats, but last night I saw some positive things. We had 10 hits, even though we didn't hit with men on base. I think it's a prelude for what can possibly happen here the last 4 games of the series, and we're going to need it.
Last 4 games, you're that optimistic. You say that as though it's going to go that far.
Well, I have to be. I mean, I'm the manager of this team. I've got supreme confidence in them, and I've got to feel very optimistic about our chances. We're still at home. We win today, we tie this series, and it becomes a 3-game series.
Now, you do not like to talk to your team as a group. That's what you've told us. Have you spoken to them, and will you speak to them today because of the circumstance?
No, I don't like team meetings per se unless they're very, very important. This is a situation where basically everybody knows what we have to do. I've talked to a few of our hitters, and I've asked them to try to be a little more aggressive, especially in fastball situations, because the Yankee pitchers aren't walking us.
You didn't shave. Last time you didn't shave, you won. Anything to that?
No, not at all, but I am a little superstitious.
All right, Lou, best of luck today.
Thank you.
All right, Bob, that's the story from down here. Up to you and Joe.
Jim, thanks. Joe, Lou Piniella has reason to be concerned. The numbers do not lie.
Well, I think you can give some of the credit to the opposing pitchers, but I think most of the blame goes to the Mariner hitters. When they've had runners in scoring position, I think they've been passive. They have to be aggressive today. They have to attack Roger Clemens when they get hitters' counts.
Well, let's hear from the man who's going to catch Clemens today. He's with Jimmy Roberts.
All right, thanks very much. And like many pitchers, Roger Clemens chooses not to talk on game day, so we turn to the next best authority, his catcher, George Posada. Can you offer any explanation for how a guy can be so dominating during the course of his regular season career and have such opposite results during the playoffs?
It's tough. I think everybody knows, you know, what he's going to throw. I think, you know, he gets geared up for the postseason. I think he's pumped up, and he lifts pitches up in the zone, and I think that's when he gets hurt.
Does he get nervous? Because he said that the issue of the postseason is sometimes one which causes him to perhaps overthrow.
Well, I don't think he's nervous. I think he's, you know, looking forward to start. Looking at, he's pumped up. He's, you know, over-prepared, over-focused, you know, and you know who you're going to face. And I think, you know, you leave pitches up in the zone, like I said earlier, and that's when he gets hurt. And, you know, when he's down in the zone, he's very, you know, very unhittable. So we'll probably want to see that today.
All right, George, thanks very much for stopping by. As you said, no mystery about what Roger Clemens is going to throw. Bob, back to you.
All right, Jimmy, thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Back with the starting lineups and the first pitch after these messages and a word from your local station. From the upper deck at Safeco Field, you can see Puget Sound in one direction and Mount Rainier in another. A beautiful sight within the ballpark is the play of Alex Rodriguez at shortstop, and he's with Jim Gray.
Totally against the wall now, Alex. What's the feeling inside the clubhouse? Because there's no room for error anymore, is there?
Well, I think the mood's still good. I mean, there's a confident bunch of guys. Basically, what it comes down to, we're in the position where the Yankees were 3 or 4 days prior to today when they were down 1-0. So we've been in familiar grounds before. This is familiar grounds. We've been here. We feel like if we have a good game today, maybe the momentum goes back in our favor.
All of the missed opportunities with men in scoring position. How much is that eating away at you guys?
Well, I don't know if it's eating away. We obviously have to correct it starting today. We cannot allow ourselves to continue to miss opportunities, especially against a great team like New York. But the opportunities have been there. We have to build on that and come through when we need to.
You're confident?
Yes, very.
All right, Alex, good luck today.
Thank you.
All right, Bob, that's the story from down here. Back upstairs to you and Joe.
Jim, thanks again. Interesting scene a little while ago, just before the game's ceremonial first pitch, thrown out by the man who would have been the starter, Lou Piniella tells us, in this game 4, were it not for his injury, Jamie Moyer. And he etches the word win on the mound in front of the rubber, encouraging his teammates, and then tosses out the first pitch. In a simulated game just before the playoffs started, he was hit on the kneecap by a line drive, suffered a fractured kneecap, and he's out of the postseason. Even if the Mariners should make it to the World Series, he would not be available, and he has been one of their most reliable pitchers.
Well, the fact that he's left-handed always works in his favor when he pitches against the Yankees. But Lou Piniella tells me he's very comfortable with Abbott because of his changeup. There you get a look at Jamie Moyer.
With Aaron Seeley, who was the loser last night. Seeley is now 0-3 in his career in the playoffs. All 3 defeats hung on him, one in each of the last 3 seasons by the New York Yankees. Here is the MasterCard starting lineup for the Yanks, and it's exactly the same as the last couple of games. In addition to what he's done in this series, Williams has had good success in his career against Abbott. He's 5 for 11 with a home run against the Seattle starter.
And Bernie Williams was swinging the bat very well yesterday. He was getting in great position. He was not moving. When a hitter can just get the stance and just stay there, stay solid, you can tell that he's going to go on a tear. And it looked that way to me yesterday with Bernie Williams. So I think they're going to have to try to maybe pitch around Bernie a few times today.
But the way the rest of the lineup is hitting now, for example, Martinez right behind him has hit in all 8 postseason games, and he's 6 for 13 with a home run in this series. But so it's more difficult to pitch around the cleanup hitter in this situation.
Well, no doubt about that, but Bernie Williams is the catalyst of this ball club. When he hits in the middle, everything seems to go well. He takes the pressure off all of the other hitters that follow him.
It can get pretty loud here at Safeco. Not as loud, though, as it could get in big games at the Kingdome. The Kingdome was a horrible ballpark, but it was very, very noisy, and there was a home field advantage in that sense for the Mariners.
And here's the Mariners defense. We mentioned they were second in the American League as far as fielding percentage. They've made a couple of errors here by Darren Wilson and 4 total. But they've also had some misplays in the outfield and on the infield that has cost them some runs. So in order to win a ball game against the Yankees, who are playing well, I think they have to play a perfect ball game. Make all the plays in the field and have a good pitch game here from Abbott.
He was 9-7 for the year. He won only 1 of his last 9 regular season starts, but then beat the White Sox in Game 2 of the division series. If he hits his spots with his changeup, and if that sinking fastball is working, as Joe mentioned earlier, he can have some fine outings. For example, he took the no-hitter to the 8th at Fenway Park in early September, and he threw 8 innings in August at Yankee Stadium, allowing only 7 hits. In a victory over New York, he split his 2 decisions with the Yankees this year, and for his career, he's 1-3 against New York.
And the left-handers will be his biggest problems. And let's take a look at the scouting report. He has to throw his changeup. He must use it. It doesn't go any good to have it if you do not throw it a lot. And he needs to keep his sinker down, and you can no career complete games. That tells you that Lou Piniella is looking for 6, maybe 7 innings from Abbott in this ball game.
He's had an injury-plagued career. On the disabled list, as I mentioned, 10 different times. In the last 2 years, he's had both elbow and knee surgery. He began his career in the early 90s with the Twins, but he wasn't on their postseason roster when they went to the World Series in 1991. So this October is the first time he's pitched in the playoffs. He was later with the Indians, then spent 3 years in the mid-90s back in the minors before returning to the big leagues in 1998 with the Mariners. So even though he doesn't like the tag, the term journeyman, or the word journeyman, certainly applies to Paul Abbott. He can take his name out of the Agate type and place it in the headlines if he can beat Clemens today.
And he starts right away with Chuck Knobloch, who has been swinging the bat very well. So you have to keep Knobloch and Jeter off the bases, because Justice, Williams, and Martinez, the middle of this order, is where you will have all your trouble as a right-handed pitcher.
0-1 pitch coming to Knobloch, who's 6 for 13 in the series. No balls and 2 strikes. The plate umpire is Wally Bell. Jerry Davis at first. Crew chief John Hirschbeck at second. Angel Hernandez at third. On the right field line, Mark Hirschbeck, John's younger brother. On the left field line, Fieldin Colbert. And the 0-2 pitch, way high.
One of the things that happened to Aaron Seeley yesterday is that he could get ahead of Knobloch, Jeter, but he couldn't put them away. I think that's something that Abbott has to do. He's going to have to get them to chase something out of the strike zone in order to get them out with 2 strikes.
Breaking ball, check swing, foul. The final is in from Shea Stadium. The Cardinals get back into the series with the Mets by winning 8-2 behind Andy Benes. So that series stands 2-1 like this one with the New York team in front. And another 1-2 pitch. Fastball rolled foul. Everyone wondering if the Yankees truly came alive with the 7 runs in the 8th inning of Game 2 of this series. And they win 8-2 here last night. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Prior to that, they truly had been struggling, even though they got by Oakland in the division series. They lost their last 7 regular season games and 15 of 18 coming into the postseason. And their 87 wins was only 5th best in the American League. It holds at 2-2.
And Knobloch is doing a good job of fighting off pitches, which allows his teammates to see most of the stuff that Abbott has here in the first inning. That's a leadoff hitter's job, is to get as many pitches thrown to him as possible. That would allow his teammates to see how much the guy's fastball is moving, how his changeup is moving, and how much break is on his curveball.
Fastball fouled away again. With that sinker.
Well, he finally got Chuck to chase something out of the strike zone. And the pitch goes down and in to Chuck. I'm not so sure if it was a sinker or a change. It's a changeup.
Yeah, you can tell by the way it comes out of his hand on the slow-mo replay.
Yeah, I thought it was a changeup, but I wasn't sure. But that definitely was a changeup, and that's the pitch that's going to be very important for him today anyway.
Knobloch gave him a battle, but Abbott disposed of him. And here's Jeter. Ball one low. Jeter hit .339 for the year, just .233 in the playoffs so far. 3 for 11 in this series. He did have the Game 2 homer. A ball and a strike. In the playoffs so far, Jeter actually has more strikeouts, 8, than hits, 7. At second base, it's David Bell for the Cats, moving over from third to second for this game, so they could get an extra left-handed bat in by playing Carlos Guillen at third base.
Well, he threw him a first pitch ball. I like that when you're pitching to Jeter because he likes to hit the first pitch. But he comes back with a fastball in and he jams him. Jeter's a first ball hitter. Doesn't matter about fastball, breaking ball, or what. He likes to attack the first pitch.
So now David Justice with 2 out and nobody on. Most of the field is covered in shadows. There's a patch stretching from left center to right center, as you see, that is in sunshine, and it could pose a problem. The fly ball comes out of the shadows and into the sun in those areas. Abbott's 1-0 pitch is high.
And David Justice is a guy that you have to change speeds on. You can jam him with the fastball, but you have to change speeds. And he's got a 2-0 pitch here.
3 balls and no strikes. Now remember last night, leading off the second, Aaron Seeley grooved a fastball on 3-0 to Bernie Williams, who rode it out of here to tie the game. Then Tino Martinez followed with another homer, and the Yankees were never headed.
Well, Joe Torre will let him hit because Joe Torre was a hitter. And he liked to hit 3-0, and he likes to have his players hit 3-0 in most situations.
So Justice aboard with 2 down. The middle of the order has been hot for New York, and it couldn't have come at a better time. They were in danger of being shut out in back-to-back games until that 7-run uprising in the 8th on Wednesday afternoon in New York. We'll see what unfolds in the next few days, but it may turn out to be the case that the Mariners had them on the ropes and let them off. Strike to Williams.
One of the things that happens to a pitcher when you allow your team to hit 3-0, he starts to think early in the count, so he pitches you 2-0 like he would if it's 3-0. He doesn't want to go to 3-0, so you're going to get good pitches to hit early in the count. As we saw there, he threw Bernie a fastball right down the middle. There's a changeup. That's the pitch that's going to make or break this outing for Abbott. when he pitches to the middle of this lineup.
And his 0-2 pitch to Williams. Bernie lays off.
Joe Torre said in the past, when he let Bernie Williams hit 3-0, he was never really aggressive. He would just have feeble swings. He said now he has learned to hit 3-0, and that's why he let him hit 3-0 last night.
This is a 1-2 pitch. Almost threw it away. 2-2. Even though only one man has reached, Abbott has already thrown 20 pitches in this inning. Knobloch fouled several off, made him work. Justice drew a 2-out walk. Now the count 2-2 to Williams. Tapped foul.
Well, he set the changeup up perfectly then. He threw him 2 high pitches, 1 high fastball in, then he threw him a high fastball to set him up for this changeup. But Bernie gets a piece of it, but he was way out in front.
And Williams steps out. Another 2-2 pitch coming. A bouncer towards second. Bell with the flip to Olerud to retire Williams. No runs, no hits, a man left. The M's come up in the bottom of the first. No score in Seattle. And here's a look at the MasterCard starting lineup for the home team. Very few of them have much to show for their career at-bats against Clemens. The exception is A-Rod, as you see. Even Edgar Martinez, a .320 lifetime hitter, hasn't managed to do much against Roger Clemens.
And the Yankees have played very good defense the entire postseason, only 1 error, and they have not had a lot of misplays as the opposition has had for playing against them. And Roger Clemens has 2 contrasting starts. He got off to a great start in his first start against the Oakland A's. He shut them out for like 5 innings, and he was throwing perfectly. He looked great. And then in the second start against the A's, he started off slowly, and then he picked it up. He had about 3 or 4 good innings in there. So we do not know which Roger Clemens is going to show up, but this guy is always capable of overpowering the opposition.
Lou Piniella shuffled his lineup to get more left-handed bats in there. The switch hitter Javier at the top of the order. Ricky Henderson and Mark McLemore have been benched. Wilson is catching instead of Oliver. Bell has moved from third to second. Cameron moves down in the lineup to sixth. 2-0 the count.
And when you're a power pitcher, you still do not want to pitch from behind, because the hitter knows exactly what's coming, and if you make a bad pitch, they can hit the ball out of the ballpark.
That one's in there. Roger Clemens, at age 38, is still a power pitcher. In remarkable physical condition, 6'4" and 230. This is his 17th year in the major leagues. The count evens at 2-2.
You know, he idolized Nolan Ryan, and he said, like Nolan Ryan, he came in as a power pitcher, and he's going to leave as a power pitcher. A lot of power pitchers had to adjust as they got older and didn't throw as hard, but Nolan Ryan was a power pitcher right till the end, and that's the way Roger wants to go out.
Out of play, still 2-2. Speaking of Nolan Ryan, Clemens finds himself on a list, but it's a little bit misleading because Ryan had 6 years where he struck out more than 300. Clemens never has reached that plateau. His career high was 292 in 1997 with Toronto. Javier makes him work. Another difference, in addition to leading the world in strikeouts, Nolan Ryan led his league in walks 8 different times. Clemens has always had very good control for a power pitcher.
That's why he's won 5 Cy Young awards.
Another 2-2 pitch. Swing and a miss, strike 3. Actually tipped it back into Posada's glove, and Jorge hold on.
Not only was this pitch overpowering, but watch the location, low and away. Posada sets up in the middle of the plate, but look at the ball run to the outside. 96-mile-an-hour fastball with movement. Look at the movement. That's tough to hit. You can always tell the movement where the catcher sets his glove and how he moves it to catch the ball.
Here's Al Martin in left field for game 4.
Martin has always been a good fastball hitter, and that's one of the reasons Lou wants him in there against Roger, because he handles the fastball so well.
The old foul. Clemens is working on 6 days rest. In the past, he's complained sometimes about long rest not being the best situation for him. He's the subject of our SAP player profile. So many ways to express his greatness. That's part of his career list of achievements.
There's the splitter. He's thrown mostly fastballs, but that's the split-fingered fastball, which is kind of his out pitch, and especially if he can get ahead of the hitters. And watch how this pitch just drops. The bottom drops out, and you see the awkward swing by Al Martin.
And he starts the game with a couple of strikeouts.
Another splitter. This is basically the way he started against the Oakland A's. Here's the pitch sequence to Martin, a high fastball, low and in fastball, splitter, and then he strikes him out with another splitter. You can see all the movement on the pitch as it just drops out. The bottom drops out.
And now he'll face A-Rod, who's a .341 career hitter against Clemens. The crowd doesn't appreciate it one bit. A, because Rodriguez is their #1 guy, and B, because many of them may be aware of Clemens' reputation as a guy who will buzz you.
And especially buzz guys who hit him well. I didn't think this pitch was as close as it looked, but it was definitely off the plate and inside.
Again. Remember when Clemens hit Piazza in the head earlier this year? Piazza had a history of abusing Clemens. Piazza had hit the rocket very, very well. No one doubts that Clemens was trying to come up and in on him. The question was whether or not he hit him intentionally.
And I still do not think he hit Mike Piazza intentionally, although Mike Piazza said he thought he did. But there's no doubt in my mind that he was buzzing, you know, up and in. And look, pitchers often do that. I mean, if a guy hits them well, they have to try to find a way to get the hitter out. They will use that.
Rodriguez was swinging 3-0, and he fouls it back.
Well, you knew Piniella was going to let Rodriguez swing 3-0 after getting buzzed twice in the high fastball, and he got a good pitch to hit, and he probably tried to hit it too hard. Well, I tell you what, Lou is not happy. So we may see the old Lou Piniella back today.
Full count. It's a little bit of a different story in an American League game where a pitcher doesn't have to bat and doesn't have to face retaliation. That's one reason, not the only reason, but one reason why there are so many more mound charging incidents these days than there used to be. At least in one of the leagues, there's no way to get retribution other than to take matters into your own hands, which doesn't justify it, but partly explains it. The 3-2 pitch. Walked it.
Even Rogers' manager, Joe Torre, said he used to dislike Roger when he pitched against his team because he felt like he would come up and in too often.
Clemens had his back turned to Rodriguez when A-Rod arrived at first base, but you saw the way Rodriguez was staring toward the pitcher's mound.
Well, I don't think there's any doubt that he's upset.
Here's Edgar. Swings on the first one and pops it up. Martinez in foul ground, retires Edgar Martinez. Rodriguez left at first. No score after one.
Of the American League Championship Series is brought to you by March 1st, a new world, a new way. www.march1st.com. By Gatorade Thirst Quencher. When the moment comes, will you have what it takes to finish? Gatorade, is it in you? And by MasterCard. There are some things money can't buy. For everything else, there's MasterCard.
Beautiful scene out on Puget Sound. And at Safeco, we move to the second. No score. Which isn't to say that nothing has happened. There's a different atmosphere as the second starts than we had in the first, after Clemens came in tight twice on A-Rod. Ball one to Martinez. Was hit safely in all 8 playoff games for the Yankees.
Now, one of the things we talked about in the scouting report was that Abbott had to use his changeup to get through this Yankee lineup. He did so in the first inning. He strikes Knobloch out with a changeup here, and he got Bernie Williams for the third out with a changeup. So he is using it, and he has to continue to throw it.
Two and one. Posada and O'Neill will follow Martinez in the Yankee second.
There's a good changeup.
On the corner and at the knees.
And Bob, we were talking about the fact that they threw a couple of pitches up and in on A-Rod. As we see this, this is a great changeup. Look at that, knee high and over the outside part of the plate. I think if they're going to retaliate, it would be against Derek Jeter.
That would make sense. There'd be some symmetry to that. Martinez tips it back into Wilson's glove. Second strikeout for Abbott.
And again, that's the good changeup. And this is why Piniella says the matchup is good. Tino way out in front of the changeup. And Abbott has a good one, and he's been using it. But you have to keep throwing it. Even if you miss with it, you have to keep throwing it, because that's the only way you're going to be able to keep these left-handed hitters off balance.
Posada hasn't hit in the playoffs. 185 to this point. And he has to spin away.
Well, I guess they couldn't wait for Jeter.
Does it make any difference at all that this is Clemens' catcher?
Yeah, well, I think he got the first hitter out. I think that made the difference. You didn't want to do it the first hitter because you may end up. Now you see Piniella's upset with someone. It's a fastball in, and you see Posada barely able to get out of the way.
Now it's 3-0.
You see, the one thing you have to be careful of is this, just what's happening here. Sometimes you forget about your job when you start to retaliate. You forget that your job is to get the hitters out. And that has to be your #1 concern, especially for the Mariners, because they're already down 2-1 in the series. I think after you've done that, you have to put it out of your mind and forget about it and go pitch.
And he walked him with 1 out. A pair of walks and a pair of strikeouts so far for Abbott. 1 out in the second.
Well, last night, Paul O'Neill, the last couple of at-bats especially, he was able to get the barrel of the bat out there and hit the ball solidly to right field. So we'll see 1 to right field, 1 to the first baseman.
O'Neill may have begun to snap out of it late in game 3. His last 2 at-bats were encouraging. He had a sharp single to right, then hit the ball hard in his final at-bat, even though Olerud made the play on him. As the late afternoon sun begins to set, the entire outfield is now covered in shadows. It's no longer a factor.
That's Paul O'Neill's spray chart. I think it's great that he goes up the middle most of the time, because that's where good hitters will aim, and then they'll be a little late sometimes, or hit it to left field, and if they're a little in front of the changeup or something, they'll pull the ball. So that's where your aiming point should be, back through the middle, and that's where Paul had most of his base hits.
That's about as even a distribution of hits as you'll ever see.
Correct. That's also why he was able to win a batting championship in the American League as well, because he was able to keep the ball in the middle of the diamond that year.
Here's Abbott's 2-0 pitch. Now maybe it's coincidence, but if in the course of sending a message, trying to even things up, Abbott lost his focus, then maybe it was a game Piniella didn't want to play, if that was the case.
Well, when you come up and in on someone, you definitely get your adrenaline flowing as a pitcher, and then you have to calm back down.
So he walked Posada. It's now 3-1 to O'Neill. Sojo's on deck.
And it's a very important pitch, because Joe Torre can go ahead and put Posada in motion. Even though he doesn't run well, he can figure that Paul O'Neill can protect him.
There he goes. And it goes right through the hole. Textbook hit and run. Posada heading for third. Martin has no play. Rodriguez with the left-handed batter up broke to cover second, and O'Neill hit it right through the space that Rodriguez had vacated.
This is why you put a hit and run on, so you can get a slow runner to third base. And Paul O'Neill places this ball perfectly through the hole that was vacated by Rodriguez. Now watch, you'll see Rodriguez cover. He actually moved a little too quickly, but he wouldn't have been able to get the ball anyway. And it's a clean base hit to left field. And that allows Posada, who would not have been able to go to third base on that hit if he wasn't moving on the pitch.
And the Yankees continue to press the action, as they have for the past couple of games, as they've snapped out of this slump. Fouled out of play by Sojo. O'Neill's single was the game's first hit for either side.
Well, the game that the Yankees played last night was their best ball game in over a month. I mean, they actually played really well. They put pressure on you offensively, and they played a good defensive ball game, and Andy Pettitte pitched out of all the jams that he got in early, and they just finally put the game away in the late innings. And they had not been doing that for over a month, but they really played very well last night.
Seattle infield looks for the double play. Sojo doesn't run that well. He hits it sharply on the ground. They can double him up. He pops it up. Rodriguez wants it. 2 out.
That was a good pitch from Abbott because Sojo's thinking that, well, he's trying to throw me a sinker to get the ground ball. Well, he threw him a riding fastball. Now watch where this pitch is. It's a riding fastball. It's not a sinking fastball. This one he gets up. See, that's the high fastball, the four-seamer, and it rides up a little bit, and he pops it up. He did not go for the sinker and the ground ball.
So now Brocious has had a number of clutch hits over the past few years for New York. Ball 1 up and in.
Well, he had struggled early in the series, but yesterday he looked like he was coming out of it as well. He hit a hard ground ball, one hopper toward the second baseman. He was staying on the ball longer, and he also had a base hit, but he was staying on the ball longer yesterday than he was earlier in the series.
In this postseason, he has only 1 RBI in 26 at-bats. 2-0. A lot of pitches in an inning and 2/3 for Abbott. Wilson looking into the dugout for the sign. And a pop back of short. Martin coming in. Rodriguez going out. Martin calls him off and takes it. Yanks had first and third, 1 out. Abbott held them off.
Really wild in the 2-man downhill.
Yankees threatened, didn't score in the top half. Seattle comes to bat in their half of the second with Olerud, Cameron, and Guillen, the scheduled hitters against Clemens. Ball 1 high and away. That one's in there. This is Roger Clemens' 15th career postseason start. He's been a 20-game winner 5 times. He's led his league in strikeouts 5 times. In ERA 6 times. He's won the Cy Young Award a record 5 times. In all of those categories, the number is higher than his career number of postseason victories. His teams are 4-10 in his 14 starts prior to today, and his personal record is 3-5 in the playoffs and World Series. In fairness, he's had a number of good outings in the postseason that resulted in no decisions for him. As a young pitcher, Cy Young Award winner and MVP in the American League in 1986, he had 2 no decisions in the heartbreaking World Series loss for the Red Sox to the Mets, including a no decision in Game 6. The infamous Mookie Wilson ground ball through Bill Buckner's legs. Infamous from Boston's perspective. Full count to Olerud. And hit through the middle, grabbed by Sojo on the move. A little humpback liner, and Sojo was able to get there.
Well, Roger hit Olerud right on the fist. That's why this ball didn't get through. It's a line drive, and you see it jams him, but it's a very soft line drive, and it allows Sojo to run over and make the catch. And Sojo gets a good jump on it and goes and makes the catch. Easy play.
Now Mike Cameron, the 2 for 11 with 5 strikeouts, accounts for why he's been dropped from the top of the order down to 6th. 2-0 the count. Foul back to the screen.
And this is the situations that Lou was talking about earlier. He said when they get hitters counts, they have to be more aggressive, meaning 2-0, 1-0, 2-1, 3-1 counts. You have to attack the ball rather than just try to put it in play.
Throw it by him, 2-2.
Well, he has a good fastball, 96 miles an hour with some movement. The key is that he does have a lot of movement on his fastball in this ball game. Now watch Posada's glove. See, he starts to reach and then he moves over. And in fact, he barely caught that ball. It had so much late movement on it.
Popped up, Soho retreating from second, but coming in from right field is O'Neill to take it. And folks, you can go in depth on every game of baseball's postseason by logging on to MSNBCSports.com. There's complete LCS coverage, plus you can view live the post-game press conferences and listen in after every game to audio interviews with key players from each team. It's all at MSNBCSports.com, the official website of NBC Sports. Now Carlos Guillen, switch hitter who gives them another left-handed bat when facing Clemens. It was Guillen who laid down the drag bunt that brought home the winning run on the bottom of the ninth here at Safeco in Game 3 of the division series against the White Sox, completing the sweep. We're in the bottom of the second, 2 out, nobody on, and no score. Beautiful October afternoon in Seattle. Temperature in the mid-50s. Sun beginning to set here in the Pacific Northwest. Almost no wind at all. Very comfortable in the ballpark. That's out of play. Speaking of that big moment for Guillen, here it was. Lays down the drag bunt in the direction of Frank Thomas, who was playing first base. Most of the year, Thomas had been a DH. That was part of Guillen's thinking and Pinella's thinking. He's going to drop it down, send it toward the man who isn't used to playing the position, at least not anymore. Thomas couldn't make the play. Guillen turns away as he's called out on strikes. The third K put in the book through 2 innings by Roger Clemens. No score in Seattle.
Critics love became.
Capacity crowd of 48,000 at Safeco, which includes Bill Gates. I understand he called up prior to the game, was told there were no tickets available, and so he bought the team and installed himself in the front row. Top of the order in the top of the third. Knobloch, Jeter, Justice. Paul Abbott worked out of a jam in the second. Yanks had runners at first and third with 1 out. He induced a couple of pop-outs to keep the game scoreless. A liner to center. Cameron backs up and has it.
Abbott has been successful in keeping Knobloch off the bases, and I think he's going to have to keep Knobloch and Jeter off if he's going to be successful in this ball game, because if he gets runners on base and he has to pitch to Bernie, Williams, and Justice, that's when he's going to have his biggest problems. He got out of a jam last inning, but he was at the bottom of the order.
Strike one to Jeter. Now, you mentioned earlier that if there was going to be retaliation for Rodriguez being buzzed, that Jeter was the logical guy. Now, Posada was brushed back. Does that even the issue?
Yes, I think the issue is finished now. It should be. But the reason I said it, because you get the shortstop, they throw it to shortstop, you get the shortstop. They throw it to first baseman, you get the first baseman. That sends the message back. But they decided they wanted to do it right away, and Posada was again the logical choice because he's the one calling pitches. He works with the pitcher.
A ball and 2 strikes. Not just position for position, star for star, too.
Right. Well, that's why you maybe think that they were going to get Jeter, but he probably didn't want to wait. And I think that if you're going to do something, you do it right away so you can get on with the ball game.
The 1-2 pitch. 2 balls and 2 strikes.
And we talked about his changeup being effective against left-handed hitters. He throws it to right-handers as well. A lot of times, right-handed pitchers do not like to throw a lot of changeup to right-handed hitters because they don't pick the ball up as quickly and are not likely to jump out at it.
Fastball hit hard to his left Guillen. Nice play.
Well, Jeter smashes this ball, but the good thing is a big hop again comes up and he makes the play. And now it's a routine play after he makes the catch. And you see Guillen reacting very quickly. He's got quick reactions. He's a guy that they're counting on to become a star here. It's one of the players that came over in the Randy Johnson trade, along with Halama and
Freddie Garcia,
who will pitch tomorrow. He was trying to start Justice off with a changeup.
Speaking of tomorrow's game, it will be Denny Nagel for the Yankees. There have been some question about that. And that young fella, Freddie Garcia, will go for Seattle. There's Nagel, who pitched well in game 1, even though he was the loser. Justice pokes one to center. Cameron scarcely has to move. Abbott works a perfect third.
Jim Gray back in Seattle before the start of the last inning. John Hirschbeck, who's the crew chief, went out and spoke to Roger Clemens. I spoke to Hirschbeck and asked him what he said. He said, Roger, that's enough. I've seen it all. I'll have no more of that. No more of this game. That's it. Bob?
Jim, thanks very much. Well, Clemens started it by coming in tight on Rodriguez twice. Abbott answered by spinning Posada out of the batter's box. If it should happen again, and if the umpires feel it was with intent, there'll be some action taken. Well, look at this. It wasn't all that close, to be truthful, but it was close enough to draw a reaction.
Well, I think what Hirschbeck did was to try to calm this thing down, and I think it was good umpiring to go in and try to do that. And who knows, the ball may have slipped out of Rogers' hand. I don't know. I don't think that he would walk out there and throw at somebody right away. In fact, I don't think he was throwing at anyone. Let's take a look. The pitch is way up and in. Well, I didn't see anything from his grip. And remember, the fact that Hirschbeck talked to Roger does not constitute a warning, because warning has to be issued to the managers as well. So no one has been warned in this ball game. And normally they warn you before they throw you out of the ball game unless they think it's malicious.
Here's the 2-1 pitch to David Bell.
But that doesn't change Lou Pinella's perspective on this. I guarantee you Lou is very upset about what happened. His hitters are not hitting and all, and they're being buzzed as well. That's not going to sit too well with any manager.
Well, he was jawing pretty good in the direction of the Yankee dugout.
He was definitely yelling at the Yankee dugout. Lou Piniella, after the Roger Clemens situation earlier in the ball game.
Rolled to short. Jeter takes to Martinez, and that takes care of Bell. Now here's Dan Wilson. And to say that Dan Wilson has had his troubles at the plate as opposed to behind it in the postseason would be to deal an understatement. He is 2 for 52 in his career in the playoffs. 2 for 52. Joe, doing a little bit of research, back in 1964, you broke into the Texas League.
Now, why do you want to get me in this?
Well, I just thought I might like to have your perspective. You broke into the Texas League with the San Antonio Bullets by going 0 for 25, but recovered to be the league MVP that year. Did you ever have a slump in the big leagues that even approached that?
Yes. My year with Philadelphia, I think I went 0 for 34.
That's bad.
That's real bad because I was putting the ball in play, just not getting any hits. But I came out of it in style.
How?
Hit a home run off Nolan Ryan and won the game, beat him 1-0. That's style.
Now that's pretty good.
Yeah.
1-2 to Wilson.
I won't tell you how many other times he got me, though.
Well, you're part of a long list.
Correct. I'm part of a long list with him and a short list from my side.
Threw it right by Wilson upstairs, the 4th strikeout for Clemens. Clemens has twice, as you might know, struck out 20 hitters in a single game, a single 9-inning game. That's the major league record. The first time he did it with the Red Sox in 1986, it was against the Seattle Mariners at Fenway Park. Then later in his career, he did it at Tiger Stadium.
Very few hitters can even foul the high fastball that Roger Clemens throws 96 miles an hour upstairs.
Ball 1 to Javier, who struck out to start the game. That one's in there. Through 2 2/3, Clemens has walked 1, struck out 4, hasn't allowed a hit. In fact, there hasn't been a ball hit particularly hard against him yet.
Well, this looks like the Roger Clemens that started the game against Oakland. He was dominating for the first 4 innings, and then he started to struggle. And that's the first game, I should say, that he started against Oakland in the ALDS.
That still doesn't sound right, does it? That doesn't roll off the tongue. ALDS, NLDS. Sounds like some sort of government agency. 3-1.
We're back to one of those situations that Lou was talking about. You're going to get a fastball from Roger Clemens in this situation, and he wants you to attack it. He doesn't want you to just go out there and slap a single someplace. He wants you to try to drive the ball in these situations. It's a good swing there by Javier.
Full count now. Al Martin on deck.
Mike Cameron with some hand grips.
Strengthening the hands and wrists.
And hitters always want to have strong hands and strong wrists and forearms.
The 3-2. In the air to left. Justice almost in his tracks. A perfect third for the Rocket. And we're back after these messages and a word from your local station. First two hitters here in the fourth went deep back-to-back to start the second last night. Bernie Williams sitting on a 3-0 pitch from Aaron Seeley, got the fastball about thigh high, drove it out to right. A few pitches later, Tino Martinez hit it over the fence in left center. First two Yankee runs gave them a 2-1 lead, and they ended the night with a 2-1 lead in the series. Williams grounded to second his first time up today. Paul Abbott matching zeros with Roger Clemens through 3. Williams was a .307 hitter for the season. We mentioned earlier that he's hit Abbott well coming into this game. Hits this ball in the air to deep right. Back goes Javier to the fence. He's got it.
And the only reason that ball stayed in the ballpark is because it was a changeup, and Williams had to supply all the power. If that would have been a fastball, it's out of here. But Williams made the adjustment to how he pitched him the first time up, and this pitch, it's a good pitch. Watch, it's down. Well, it's in a little bit. That's the problem. It's a changeup down, and you see Bernie supplies all the power with his upper body and drives Javier to the wall for the out. And one of the things we talked about yesterday that Lou Piniella told us, the ball actually carries better when the roof is closed. So
in left field, Al Martin retires Tino Martinez. Coming soon to NBC,
Michael Richards.
you got Michael Richards from Seinfeld. You got Tim Meadows, the ladies' man. I know you will not miss it, Joe.
I like the ladies' man.
Have to like the
Kinda
ladies'
into
man.
that. Yeah.
Here's Posada. Drew a walk after being brushed back by Abbott in the second. 2 out, nobody on here in the fourth. And that's strike 1. Since O'Neill singled in the second, the game's only hit for either side. Abbott has retired 7 in a row. The first 2 of those were crucial. The Yankees had first and third with 1 out. We got Soho to pop to short and Brocious to fly to shallow left to end the inning.
He started Posada off with a changeup, then he went with the sinker, and now he comes back with another changeup. They do not want to throw Posada a lot of fastballs, especially in hitters' counts. Pops that fastball away, though, but he's got it up and in. This pitch is actually not a good pitch for a hitter to handle. Watch where it ends up. Up and in, but Posada got a pretty good swing at it.
And the count holds at 2-2.
Change up. One thing about Abbott's changeup, he's throwing it at different speeds. He's throwing it anywhere from 81 to 84 miles an hour.
Goes to the fastball, and it's popped up. Olerud can take it, but Bell calls him off. 8 in a row now, set down by Abbott. To the bottom of the fourth, no score.
Coverage of the American League Championship Series is brought to you by MySAP.com. The best-run e-business is run by SAP.com. By the new Twister from KFC. How good is that? And by Bud Light. For the great taste that won't fill you up and never lets you down, make it a Bud Light.
On this day in baseball, exactly 24 years ago tonight, the 5th and deciding game of what was then a best-of-5 league championship series at Yankee Stadium. Mark Littell of the Royals to Chris Chambliss of the Yankees. He drives it over the wall in right center field. The Yankees win the pennant for the first time since 1964. A couple of the principals involved in that moment are in the ballpark tonight in Seattle. Buck Martinez, who was behind the plate, is working the game on ESPN radio. Buck's name has been mentioned in connection with the managerial opening now in Toronto after Jim Fregosi was fired, and Chris Chambliss is now the Yankees hitting coach. And his name too is somewhere in the mix of those who will be interviewed with the various openings, with 6 managers having been fired since the season ended. Strike one to Al Martin will be followed by A-Rod and Edgar Martinez. Nubbed foul, 0-2.
It's interesting, Bob. They went the entire season, meaning the owners, without firing a manager, now 6 openings very quickly as the season ended.
First time there hasn't been a single in-season managerial change in 58 years, since 1942. Willie Randolph, the Yankee third base coach, another guy whose name has been prominently mentioned as a potential manager. 1-2. Clemens has struck out 4. Rolled to the right side. Clemens has to cover. Martinez gets it to him, and he beats Martin to the bag. Did Roger get spiked there?
No.
Hobbling a little bit, it appears.
Well, I don't think he's ever completely recovered from the groin injury he had early in the season. You see him, he's fighting hard to get there. I mean, it's not easy for him to run, but he actually gets out of the way.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. Because I was watching very closely to see if Martin was going to have to run over him. Well, Roger kind of pushes Martin away there, which he should. But you can see Roger was laboring a little bit, and I think that it's still because of the groin. He's not 100% when he has to cover first base very quickly, as he did on that play.
Interesting at bat here. Strike one to Rodriguez, who was twice brushed back in the first inning by Clemens.
Roger started him with a slider this time. The other 2 were fastballs in.
Here are the 2 he buzzed A-Rod with in the first. Consecutive pitches with a purpose. Rodriguez, a career .341 hitter against Clemens. The 0-2 pitch, down and away. And he gets him swinging. The 5th strikeout for Clemens.
Good pitch. That was a little cut fastball or a slider. Down and away. Slider down and away, and A-Rod just swings over the top of it.
So now Edgar Martinez bats with 2 out and nobody on. He fouled out to Tino Martinez in the first. We mentioned this earlier in the series. If the Mariners rally and make it to the World Series, Edgar would have to be only a pinch hitter in the National League ballpark. They'd use the DH in the American League park and play National League rules in either Shea Stadium or Busch Stadium, depending upon who emerges from that series.
Well, if the Mets were to win, he may have a spot. He may play first base, and they would let John Olerud take some time off against some of the left-handed pitchers of the Mets. I think you have to find a way to get his bat in there sometime. You may not be able to get it in there on an everyday basis, but you have to get him in there as much as possible, and that would be the only solution, I believe, because he can't play first base.
Hit to short. Jeter comes up with it, throws him out. Just as a point of reference, he's played 11 games at first base in the last 3 years. The last time he played the field regularly back in '94, about 60 games at third. Joe, continuing your thought from the last half inning, if in fact Seattle plays the Mets in the World Series with Hampton and Leiter, they'd have to think about getting Martinez into the lineup somehow if the left-handers work at Shea Stadium. On the other hand, the only left-hander the Cardinals have, if St. Louis should make it to the World Series against Seattle for the sake of argument, is Rick Ankiel, and it seems unlikely that Tony La Russa would go back to him at all with the problems he's had with his control. Unless you were a Cardinal fan, that was almost comical the other night, or painful, I guess both.
I think it was painful.
Happening to him for a second postseason start in a row. He'd had the same problems against Atlanta. So if the Cardinals advance, it's unlikely that they'd have a left-handed starter against either the Yankees or the Mariners. On to the fifth. Paul O'Neill takes strike one. O'Neill has the game's only hit, a second inning single off Abbott.
And so far, Abbott has been able to mix his pitches very well. He's changing speed. He's throwing one speed on the fastball, then he turns the fastball over. And he's using his changeup very effectively. And he's throwing a slider. So he's mixing speeds, and that's 4 different speeds that he's throwing.
Speaking of that Mets-Cardinals series, St. Louis got back into it, winning 8-2 today at Shea behind Andy Benes. In game 4 of that series tomorrow, it's Bobby Jones coming off that one-hit masterpiece that finished off the Giants against Darryl Kyle. It's La Russa's intention, apparently, if this is a 7-game series, to do it the old way, the Whitey Ford, Bob Gibson, Sandy Koufax way. He'll use his ace in games 1, 4, and 7 on 3 days rest. We've got the early game tomorrow, Nagel against Garcia. And Joe Buck, Tim McCarver, and Bob Brenly have the call on Fox with the nighttime broadcast from Shea Stadium, game 4 of that series. Here's Abbott's 1-2 pitch. Foul back.
You see the numbers for Abbott. He only struggled in the second inning. Other than that, he has been in control, complete control.
And he fans O'Neill. That's his 3rd strikeout.
One of the things I'm noticing that has been effective for him has been the high changeup. Normally you try to get the changeup down, but look where this pitch is. This is a high changeup. He got Bernie Williams out by bouncing to second base. Bernie bounced this high changeup to second base. There is the changeup again. This one's up, and Paul O'Neill swings over the top of it. And he's thrown a few high changeups.
Called strike to Soho.
A high changeup is normally easier to gauge because it's up in your eyes. You can see it better. When you have to look down at the changeup is when it fools you more. But he's been very effective. And the other thing about a changeup, you have to have great arm speed. It has to come out of your hand looking just like the fastball. And he uses great arm speed with his changeup.
Soho with a drive toward the gap in left center field. Cameron on the run, and he gets one.
Well, the Mariners were talking about the range of Cameron, and we get a chance to see it here. He gets a great jump on the ball, and he just runs this one down. Soho hit the ball pretty well. It's a high fastball, and he drills it to left center field. And Cameron got a great jump on it. He's got long, great strides. I mean, he looks like he can really cover the ground. And he does a great job out there in center field.
Ten in a row set down now by Abbott. And strike one to Brocious, who flied to left with runners at first and third and 2 out to end the second.
and he had Abbott in a tough position, but Abbott made a good pitch with a fastball in.
A liner to right, and that breaks the string for Abbott.
And that's what he did yesterday. And I was mentioned earlier, he was starting to go to right field, which keeps him on the ball a lot longer. Brosha at the beginning of the series and the Oakland series, he was pulling off the pitches away. Now he goes out there, this pitch is away, and he just goes the other way with it. That's good hitting right there. See how he hangs in there and stays there and goes the other way. If you pull off the breaking ball, you're not going to be able to hit it.
Knobloch is struck out and lined to center. All one down and in. As you can hear in the background, the Burlington Northern is chugging down the track.
He struck Knobloch out with a changeup the first time up, and then he got him with a sinker that Knobloch hit into center field his second time up.
As we mentioned, Abbott had a very impressive outing at Yankee Stadium in August. He worked 8 innings and allowed only 7 hits and got the win against New York. Lou Piniella was hoping that that changeup combined with the sinker would have the Yankees off balance. By and large, that's been the case through 4 2/3. He misses high here and falls behind 3-0. Knobloch stepped out. Abbott never budged. He just stood there on the rubber. He wants to go. Strike one.
Well, the Yankee hitters do that sometimes. We saw them do it with Freddie Garcia. They try to step out and break the pitcher's rhythm. It did not work with Garcia. He pitched an excellent ball game in the first game of the series. There's Freddie. He'll have the call tomorrow.
And Knobloch draws a 2-out walk, which pushes Brocious into scoring position at second. An RBI spot for Jeter, who's popped to second and grounded hard to third.
I just think Dan Wilson's trying to make sure that Abbott feels okay and he's comfortable with the way that they want to go after Jeter. They want to stay on the same page here. If you want to try to get him out with a fastball in, or you want to try to get him chase breaking balls away.
Clemens has never been in trouble. This is the second time Abbott has faced a jam. And ball 1 to Jeter. Brocious, who singled with 2 out, is at second now. Knobloch, who walked, is at first. And there's the pitching coach, Brian Price, coming out as Abbott removes some dirt from his cleats.
And the problem that Abbott has is everything can unfold very quickly here for him. I mean, if he's not able to get Jeter out, then you're into the middle with Justice and Williams and Martinez. So this thing could get ugly in a hurry.
Well, we have a chance, and the plate umpire Wally Bell is headed out to try and break up the conference. And as usually happens, before the umpire can arrive and say let's go, just then the manager or coach turns away as if it's a coincidence. NBC has a new hit on its hands this fall with Sunday's newest drama, Ed. Last week 22 million people watched and found out why it's considered one of the season's best new series. That's Ed, tomorrow night at 8, 7 Central, here on NBC. And Jeter lofts one to center. Cameron started in, now goes back. The ball really carrying at the fence. He leaps and it's gone. That surprised everybody in the house, including Jeter. That looked like a routine fly ball, and it just kept on going. 3-0 New York.
And the ball doesn't carry as well when the roof is open as it does when it's closed. This is a high fastball. It's up, and Jeter turns on it. He looked like he got a lot of it. He's not sure right there if he got enough. Cameron knows that it's going to be over the wall, so he goes back and he tries to leap up and keep it in the ballpark, but he can't, and the Yankees take a 3-0 lead. Great effort there by Cameron.
The kind of play that he has made a few times this year. Jeter watching it as he rounds first, but Cameron at first started in, then went back, and the ball just kept carrying on him, and he couldn't get back to the wall fast enough to really brace himself for his maximum leap.
And all this started with 2 outs, a single to right by Brocious, a walk to Knobloch, and Jeter puts him ahead.
Check swing roller by Justice. Abbott barehands it and gets him at first. But the way Clemens is throwing, 3 runs looks very, very big, combined with the fact that the Mariners haven't hit for the entire series. Jeter puts the Yankees on top. Derek Jeter's second home run of this series has given the Yankees a 3-0 lead. Here's a look at some of his exploits in this LCS. The back to the plate catch in Game 1 at Yankee Stadium. Diving play to steal a hit here in Game 3 earlier in the series. Going in hard against his buddy A-Rod to break up a potential double play. The opposite field home run in the 8th inning of Game 2 at Yankee Stadium, and the play just before that was a possible double play that he went hard on and beat at first base to sustain what wound up being a scoring inning for the Yankees. And here's the home run just beyond the reach of Cameron in center field to give the Yankees a 3-0 lead. And Clemens back to work in the bottom of the 5th against Olerud. Slow roller toward Martinez. Clemens covers 1 out. So the Rockets stake to a 3-0 lead in a game in which he is yet to yield a hit.
And he looks more like the Roger Clemens that started Game 1 when he dominated for 5 innings. The question is, can he sustain his stuff? He's had a couple of runs to first base. And remember, he still does have the groin injury, and we'll see how long he can go. But he's also getting close to the bullpen territory.
The 1 walk was in the 1st inning to Rodriguez, and half of that was the 2 pitches he threw up near his chin intentionally. Apart from that, he's been perfect. Cameron fly to shallow right his first time up. 2-1 the count to him.
And you can see that he's spotting his fastball very well tonight. Posada's setups on the outside corner, and watch this. He sets up right on the outside corner, and that's where he receives it.
Still 2-2.
The 3-run homer by Jeter just really quieted the crowd. It seems to have taken everyone, the emotion out of the ballpark.
part of it is how hard runs have been to come by for the Mariners. There's strikeout number 6 for Roger Clemens.
Roger starts off with a good breaking ball for a strike. Fastball in. Another one in, and then he hits the outside corner with a fastball. He goes, this one's in the middle a little bit, but he fouls it back. And he just throws the fastball right by Cameron.
The way baseball has been played over the past 7 or 8 years in the major leagues, a 3-run lead is far from insurmountable, generally speaking. But considering that Seattle is in the midst of a horrendous slump, their team batting average now beneath 200 for the series, and considering the way Clemens is throwing, those 3 runs loom very large.
Well, each game has its own flow, Bob, and sometimes a 3-run lead is very comfortable. Sometimes a 3-run lead is not. So it's just the flow of the game. But the way this game is going, you feel like a 3-1 lead. If you're the Yankees, you feel comfortable with it. Especially knowing that if Roger can go a couple more innings, you have Rivera and you have Stanton and you have Nelson out there to bring in late in the ball game. It's like the Yankee team is very similar to the Mariners team. All you're trying to do is get to the 7th inning with a lead.
We asked Joe Torre before the game if he could use Mariano Rivera, since he employed him for an inning and 2/3 last night. He said yes, I could use him for an inning. I wouldn't bring him in the 8th unless I was truly desperate, and since he's ahead 2-1, he's not going to be desperate tonight. But he would use him in the 9th, he said. He didn't throw that many pitches, even though he logged an inning and 2/3 in finishing up game 3. Full count now to Guillen. A little pop-up on the infield. Brocious is going to take it, and Clemens has the Mariners no hit through 5. On to the 6th. Paul Abbott has pitched very well, but considering what Clemens is doing and the way the Mariners have been hitting through this entire series, he may have had almost no margin for error, and he did make at least one mistake to Derek Jeter, who drove it over the center field fence. Clemens and Posada seem to be in sync. Maybe all Posada has to do is follow Clemens' lead. It looks like the trainer's coming out along with the pitching coach to look at Abbott. So far as we know, Abbott, who has had elbow and knee problems in the past, comes into this game with no particular problems. He's working on 9 days rest since he pitched well against Chicago in game 2 of the division series a week and a half ago. And we didn't spot anything unusual in his last half inning of work. This is while he was warming up prior to the top of the 6th. And he's shaking his arm just a little bit after that last warm-up throw.
Well, watching that, it tells you that it's time to take him out, because he doesn't look like, you know, he can throw without any pain. And I think the pitching coach is trying to get Lou's attention to tell him what to do.
That's Rick Griffin, who is the Mariners' head trainer, who's out there along with Brian Price, the pitching coach. Now, plate umpire Wally Bell indicates that a change is going to be made, but they didn't have anybody warming up. So whomever Piniella and Price decide upon will have as long as he needs to come out to the mound and get ready. It's Rob Ramsey, the left-hander, who was added to their roster after Jamie Moyer was injured and had to be deactivated for the playoffs. So Abbott actually acquitted himself very well. But he leaves prematurely because of an apparent injury, and he leaves on the short end of a 3-0 score. Well-deserved round of applause. Many of the fans coming to their feet here at Safeco, and we'll be back in a minute. Moments ago in the Mariner dugout, Abbott, after being removed, sat down for a moment, but then, after a pat on the back from Jay Buhner, heads to the clubhouse, trailed by the trainer, and replaced by Rob Ramsey. With a report, here's Jim Gray.
All right, Bob. Well, he came over to the bench. Lou Piniella said, "What is the matter with you?" And Abbott told him his shoulder got very sore. He said, "What happened?" He said he didn't really know. He threw his last warm-up pitch. It was bothering him, so he wanted to come out of the game as opposed to staying out there and pitching injured. So he's being examined right now by Rick Griffin. Bob?
Well, when you've been on the disabled list 10 times in your career, maybe you've got a pretty good sense of your own fragility. Abbott took himself out, apparently. Ramsey comes in. 1-1 for the year with an ERA of 3.40. Switch hitter Bernie Williams turns around to the right side. Ramsey has struggled with his control in 50 regular season innings. He walked 40. A liner over Bell's head, and it drops in front of Javier and right. So that's the way Ramsey is greeted in the 6th.
Well, Bob, it's very difficult to play in the major leagues when you're 100% healthy, and when something bothers you, it's twice as bad, and that's why Abbott took himself out of the ball game. The ball is running away from Bernie Williams. He actually hits it off the end of the bat, but he gets enough of it to get it over the head of the second baseman, and it was also good hitting because he was going that way. If he tries to pull that pitch, he'd pop it up.
Tino Martinez is struck out and flied out. Takes a strike on the outside corner. That's Jose Paniagua, who has been effective in this postseason out of the Mariner pen. Hard throwing right-hander. Ramsey's 0-1 pitch. Squib foul, 0-2. This crowd was roaring at the outset of the game, and they make a little bit of noise now with 2 strikes on Martinez. But the homer by Jeter and the way Clemens has pitched has taken a lot of the energy out of this crowd. Martinez.
Quick fastball underneath the hands finishes off the at bat, but it was set up with the breaking balls away. First pitch, breaking ball over the outside corner. So strike 1, another breaking ball, swings and misses, then a fastball, and then under the hands. Nice pitching there by Ramsey.
Now he'll face Posada, who, like Williams, is a switch hitter and turns around to bat from the right side. Game 5 tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock Pacific and 4 o'clock Eastern. Denny Nagel for the Yankees, Freddie Garcia for the Mariners, reprising the Game 1 matchup. There's the young right-hander from Venezuela. If the Mariners don't rally here against Clemens, it will be a very difficult hill to climb. Even if they should beat Nagel and send the series back to New York, you've got El Duque waiting and rested for Game 6. Nearly invincible in October in his career, and then Andy Pettitte in Game 7, if it gets that far. High 1-1.
El Duque holding the baseballs in his hand.
There goes the runner from first. Here's the throw by Wilson. It's off the bag, and Williams steals second.
Smart play by Bernie Williams. He gets a good jump. Wilson's throw is to the shortstop side, so no chance for him to tag Williams out. And Williams just basically takes off on his first movement, and he beats the throw easily.
Meanwhile, the count runs to 2-1 on Posada. In center field, Cameron has it lined up. Williams tags, but just to draw a throw. Two outs, and that leaves it up to O'Neill. They don't tire of booing Paul here in Seattle.
Well, you see what the Yankees have done. The first 16 innings they struggled, and they've been 7 for 12 since that time.
When Bernie Williams finally delivered in the bottom of the 8th of Game 2 at Yankee Stadium, knocking home David Justice after Justice had doubled to open the inning. That tied the game. That was finally a case of the Yankees coming through with a man in scoring position, and then the floodgates opened. Williams singled to open the inning. Later stole second. In scoring position with 2 out for O'Neill, who was singled and struck out. In the air to shallow left. Coming on is Martin. Rodriguez going out. The left fielder takes it. To the bottom of the 6th we go. 3-0 New York. Roger Clemens has the Mariners no-hit, and he struck out 6 through 5. None of the current Mariners were on the club in April of 1986. When in a Cy Young and MVP season, Clemens remarkably struck out 20 and walked none at Fenway Park, April 29th, 1986. He wore number 21 then. That's Paul O'Neill's number with the Yankees, so Clemens moved up a digit to number 22 in New York. He faces David Bell and starts him with ball 1. Remember, when Clemens went from Boston to Toronto, he in effect bought number 21 from Carlos Delgado by giving him a $16,000 Rolex watch in return for the number. The way Delgado has hit the past couple of years, the money he's going to make, he could buy a Rolex out of his petty cash drawer. But then it seemed big. Clemens got number 21 and won back-to-back Cy Young awards in Toronto before coming to New York. Grounded foul. A ball and 2 strikes.
Well, we said at the beginning that he has the ability to dominate an offense when he's spotting the ball well and staying ahead of the hitters. And so far tonight, even when he's fallen behind the hitters, he's been able to reach back and get enough movement on the fastball that they haven't been able to hurt him.
Still 1-2. Bell will be followed by Dan Wilson, then back to the top of the order for Stan Javier here in the 6th. Posada with the sign, and Clemens with the 1-2 pitch. Just missed. 2-2.
pitches off the plate outside, but I like is what Posada did. He just threw the ball back. He doesn't want Roger to think that the pitch might have been a good pitch. You do not want to do anything to change Roger's disposition right now. So he just caught it outside and threw it back.
Clemens, by his own admission, not only very emotional, but very hard on himself, and he broods over bad outings. He's had a week to think about his failure to close the division series at home against Oakland, forcing his team to fly across the country in a do-or-die situation just to prolong their season by winning Game 5 at Oakland. He's well on his way to bouncing back tonight. Sliced foul, still 2-2. Clemens went 13-8 this year, and his ERA of 3.70, which is pretty darn good in modern baseball, was the second best of any starter in the American League. Full count, of course. It just proves that Pedro Martinez is on another planet, because Martinez was first at 1.74, 2 runs better than the next best ERA of any starter in his league, and he pitches at Fenway. The 3-2 fouled off. Seattle drew a lot of walks, contributing to the high on-base percentage during the regular season. The Yankee pitchers have had excellent control in this series. And Bell pops it up toward the middle of the diamond. Jeter backpedals, and that's the first out.
Bell gave him a good battle, but eventually Roger got the fastball up a little bit, and you can't hit the fastball when it's that high with that much movement and velocity behind it. Here's a high fastball up around the letters, and Bell pops it up.
You're looking at an unlikely candidate to get to Clemens at this point. Wilson, who struck out swinging in his first at-bat and is now 2 for 53 in the playoffs for his career. Rolled foul, 1-1.
The one thing that Roger's doing very well at this point, he's keeping everything down until he gets 2 strikes.
And he's got 2 strikes now on Wilson, who wasn't close on that swing.
Well, he's been able to keep the splitter down, the slider down, and his fastball down, unless he wants to go upstairs. And Wilson not even close to this splitter.
He has him at his mercy now and finishes him for his 7th strikeout of the ball game.
And everything is down, and that's the key, especially with his splitter. There's a high fastball. Now he comes back with another sinker. Now he goes with a splitter. He swings it, another splitter, and it's see you later.
7 tonight. He has more than 3,500 in his career. So as Yankee and Red Sox fans know, maybe fans in Toronto as well, for a guy who specializes in putting K's in the scorebook. He has 4 children, all of them with names starting with a K. Kobe, Corey, Casey, Cody.
Very interesting. I mean, that tells you that he loves the K, right?
The 1-1 to Javier. A ball and 2 strikes.
And he's going more to the splitter now than he was earlier in the ball game. and he's been able to keep everything down.
The only man to reach, Alex Rodriguez, who walked with 2 out in the first. A called strike 3. 2 in the inning, 8 in the game, no hits through 6. Back after these messages and a word from your local station.
And Roger Clemens has been dominant tonight. He's striking the Mariners out. He's got 8 strikeouts. He started here with Javier Martin in the first inning. Follows that up with Ginn. Then he strikes out Dan Wilson. He even get Alex Rodriguez, Mike Cameron, and he's doing it in a variety of ways. The splitter, the straight fastball, and he's using all of his pitches. The high fastball, the splitter, the slider. I mean, he's using them all, and he's throwing strikes with them. But the important thing is he's keeping all of his pitches down unless he has 2 strikes, and then he goes up and out of the strike zone. So he's doing a great job.
The Mariners, meanwhile, go to their 3rd pitcher of the night, the veteran Jose Mesa. 4-6 for the season, with an ERA of 5.5. He faces Soho, who's 0 for 2. Hit the ball well his last time up, flying to Cameron in very deep left center field. Derek Jeter homer in the top of the 5th with 2 aboard represents all the scoring in the game, and quite possibly more than what Roger Clemens will require tonight. Brocious on deck, and then Knobloch in the New York 7th. Trying to take a 3-1 lead in the series. Line to right, Javier makes the catch for out number 1. And coming up on NBC, that is a truly great show, Law and Order, here on NBC. It's Roger Clemens who's putting on a great show tonight. He has never pitched a no-hitter in his career. He threw a 1-hitter in 1988 at Fenway Park against the Indians. Broken bat grounder toward Bell, and Brocious is retired. In that game at Fenway Park, Clemens had a no-hitter into the 8th, and Dave Clark got a single, the only hit he allowed.
I'm surprised that he's only thrown one hitter. That's all.
That's it.
That's surprising, because normally a guy who's as overpowering as he can be, you'd get close a few more times. I mean, Nolan Ryan had 7 no-hitters and about 5 1-hitters.
I think even more than that.
Yeah.
In terms of the 1-hitters, 7 is right on the no-hitters. Knobloch's 0 for 2 with a walk.
Well, his walk was very instrumental in this ballgame. I mean, it kept the inning going. The single by Brocious with 2 outs started the rally. Knobloch walked, and then Jeter hit a 3-run homer.
Chase that one, 1-1. Called strike, 1-2. When a game unfolds like this one, there's almost a sense you can get lulled into it because it's still a relatively close game at 3-0. There's almost a sense that the Yankee at-bats are just prelude. Get it out of the way and get Clemens back to the mound. A drive to left center On the move is Martin. And Mesa comes on and sets the Yankees down 1-2-3 in the 7th. Stretch time at Safeco, and we'll be back in a minute.
BC's coverage of the American League Championship Series is brought to you by Chevrolet. If only everything was as dependable as a Chevy, Chevy will be there. By NBCI.com, one site with everything you need. By Sun America, the retirement specialist. And by Coors Light, proud partner of the John Wayne Cancer Institute and their search for a cure.
As we move to the bottom of the 7th, here's the March 1st game summary. Clemens has been dominant. Hall Abbott pitched well before his shoulder tightened up on him, but he did allow the 3-run homer to Jeter in the 5th.
And Bob, when you start to look down the lineup here, you say, well, how many guys can handle the real good fastball? Well, Al Martin is one of those guys. He can handle a fastball. He's been chasing the splitter. So if Clemens was to get behind him, he'd have to throw him a fastball.
This ball is ripped, and it's over Martinez's head down the right field line. There goes the no-hitter, and there goes Martin towards second with a leadoff double.
And that's what I'm talking about. You have certain guys that can handle a real good fastball, and some of the other guys are at his mercy. But Al Martin is one of those guys that can handle a good fastball. Now watch, he'll take this fastball and just rip it in the corner. And Tino Martinez gets a piece of it, it looked like. I thought he may have ticked his glove. I think it did. But he couldn't come down with it. And Martin has a leadoff double here for the Mariners. I think it tipped his glove. Yes, it does. Tips right off the edge of his glove. Tino almost gets it.
Usually, when a guy pitches a no-hitter, there's a saving play or two. Martinez almost made one, couldn't. Martin's double spoils it for Clemens, and now everyone can turn their attentions to the game itself. And as soon as the no-hitter went out the window, Nelson and Stanton got up in the bullpen. One and one to A-Rod, who's disgusted with the call.
Well, he thought the pitch was low. Not many complaints tonight about the umpire. Wally Bell has done a good job.
That one's in there, 1-2.
Well, he seems to have A-Rod off balance when he's looking for the fastball. He threw the splitter. Looking for the splitter, he throws him the fastball.
Seattle with its first chance against Clemens tonight. Rodriguez stepped out, and time was granted.
Well, what Roger's saying is that you call timeout really late. And I've mentioned this once before. If you stop a guy, see, Rogers didn't see him and he started and he followed through, which is the right thing to do, because if you stop yourself, you may hurt yourself. You can be injured stopping. And they were yelling at each other. Roger said something first, and then Alex answered him.
These two will not be dining together after the game at any of the fine restaurants in Seattle. This has to be galling for A-Rod. He's struck out twice now after Clemens brushed him back twice and walked him in the first.
Well, he gets a splitter called a strike, a fastball on the inside called a strike, and then he chases a splitter. But I say chase, but it's a good pitch because it starts in the strike zone and it drops out just before it gets to the plate.
Edgar Martinez 0 for 2, Scribbs 1 fouled. Roger Clemens has just now moved over 100 pitches for the game. He pitched only one complete game this season. We're in the bottom of the 7th. As recently as the 6th, he was clocked at 98 miles an hour. So he isn't losing much, if anything.
Well, I tell
0-2.
you, that splitter is diving. I mean, everyone is swinging and chasing it. You see Edgar shake his head. Now watch what it starts in the strike zone, and the bottom falls out right as it gets to the plate. So it's a strike, and all of a sudden the bottom falls out. And when you have this many hitters chasing it, that tells you that it's a devastating pitch for him tonight.
Called strike 3.
Well, that's a slider. That's a little different pitch. That shows you how tough he is tonight. You get him looking for the splitter because that's basically what you've been throwing the last few innings. Now you come with the slider, and you buckle his knees on the inside corner. Great pitching there by Roger Clemens. So it's a slider. He thought it was going to be a splitter, and it's a slider.
And that's strikeout number 10. Bringing up Olerud, with Martin, who opened the inning with a double, still at second. Clemens has been clocked at 96 in this inning. Foul back, 1-1. Obviously, as long as the no-hitter was intact, Clemens was going to remain in the game. Now, even with the shutout, even with a one-hitter, Torrey will go to his bullpen eventually. It's doubtful that this will turn out to be a complete game for Clemens. But he shows no signs of weakening. Here's the 1-1. A ball and 2 strikes now. The complete game that Clemens threw this year was actually a loss. Many of you may remember it late May at Yankee Stadium against the Red Sox, his old team, and Pedro Martinez, one of the great duels of the season. Clemens struck out 13, walked nobody, allowed 5 hits and just 2 runs, but lost it to Martinez and the Red Sox. He went the distance. They check at third. He didn't go around.
And when you can throw the splitter at 90 miles an hour, 91, 92 miles an hour, and start it in the strike zone and the bottom falls out, it's almost impossible for the hitter to lay off of. This one Olerud lays off of, but the pitch before he swung at, and we've seen Alex Rodriguez chase him. We've seen Edgar Martinez chase him. We've seen a lot of good hitters chase the splitter tonight.
Full count. A lot of times fans watching at home from the center field camera say, why doesn't the hitter lay off? But
exactly.
It's on you so quickly, and it doesn't look like what it ends up as in the catcher's glove the split second before it dives.
Well, it looks like it is in the strike zone halfway there, and it appears to be in the strike zone, and a lot of these hitters are good low ball hitters, so they want to hit the low pitch, but then the bottom falls out.
The 3-2. And Olerud draws the walk. They check down at third base, and Angel Hernandez said he didn't go around, so this is going to bring the tying run to the plate. You be the judge. Close.
Well, I don't think he swung at it, but the pitch had to be close. You can see that the ball may have been a fraction off the outside corner. Roger wanted it.
That's his second walk. He's allowed 1 hit, and he struck out 10. The hitter is Cameron, who had 19 homers during the season. Nelson and Stanton in the pen.
Well, Cameron has power, but he's also been overpowered by Roger Clemens tonight. He has not been able to catch up with the fastball. or the splitter. He has been off balance. He's 0 for 2, hit a fly ball to right field, but even then he was overmatched by Clemens. He's going to have to speed it up a little bit. One thing you do when a guy is throwing very hard, you do not swing harder, you swing quicker. You have to make sure you get the barrel of the bat out in front of the plate, but not by swinging it harder.
Fouled off, which is another reason why guys chase that splitter, because they're trying to pull the trigger soon enough to catch up with the heat.
Well, a lot of them are swinging too hard and trying to get there. That was a pretty good swing right on that pitch by Cameron. But he's been overmatched with the high fastball from Clemens so far in the game.
The Mariners' best and perhaps only chance against Clemens tonight. 2 on, 2 out on the 0-1 pitch. A called strike 2.
This is the fastball he's had trouble with, the one around the belt. This one happens to be away, but it's a great fastball. I mean, that's a tough pitch.
Now he's got Cameron set up at 0-2. Fastball high. Martin at second, Olerud at first. Clemens from the stretch, and the 1-2 pitch to Cameron is low.
A little surprised that he didn't go with the splitter there. Threw him the high fastball to get him looking up, and then you throw the splitter low. He tried to go low with the fastball, but he never started it in the strike zone.
Two on, 2 out, and the 2-2 pitch. Full count. He had him 0-2. Now it runs out full.
You have to give Cameron credit. He knows he can't hit this high fastball, and he doesn't chase it. That one definitely was high. You could see Posada pull it down.
This has got Torrey up and pacing. Runners ready to go from first and second. Clemens wheels and looks Martin back.
This is a big pitch, but so far Cameron has not been able to handle the fastball, the good fastball from Clemens that's up.
Clemens steps off. Full count with 2 out. There they go, and here it comes. Called strike 3. 2 men reached in the inning, but he struck out the side. 11 Ks for the game, and a 1-hitter through 7. At age 38, in the 17th year of a Hall of Fame career, Roger Clemens still capable of overpowering performances. He strikes out the side in the 7th, and there's the reaction. He's always been an emotional competitor. Jose Mesa back to the hill in the top of the 8th to face Jeter, whose 3-run homer in the 5th is all the scoring in the game. With 2 out in the 5th, Paul Abbott was sailing along with a shutout. Brocious single to right, Knobloch walk, and then Jeter skied this one to center field, just beyond the reach of Cameron, who didn't get all the way back to the wall in time to get to the very peak of his leap. Otherwise, he might have had a shot at it. On the corner, 2-1.
Well, this also tells you that the Yankees are playing really well again, because he was able to handle most of the left-handed hitters in this lineup, meaning Abbott, and it's Jeter that hurts him. You concentrate so hard on keeping the left-handers in the ballpark, and Jeter hits one out.
Now it evens at 2-2. Justice will follow, and then Williams in the 8th.
And then you add Roger Clemens' performance to it, and you have a pretty good ball club going again. The Yankees had struggled, but now they seem to be back on top of their game. Yesterday's ball game was a really important game for them, not just because they won, but because they played so well. And they did everything that a championship team is supposed to do. They had clutch pitching from Andy Pettit. They got great defense. And they also had some timely hitting yesterday. So that was just a sign of a very good ball club.
They were this close to being bounced out in the division series by Oakland. Just as close to going down 0-2 and heading on the road in this series against Seattle. But when they came off the ropes in both those instances, they may have found their groove. And now the 87 wins, a very modest total for the regular season, and all their struggles in September and in the early part of these playoffs may not be as relevant as the history of the last 3 or 4 years. This may be a team approaching its past form.
I don't think they can be as good as they were in '98.
Well, nobody could be that good.
And I don't think they're closer to the '99 team, but they're still not quite as good. They're a very good team, but not as good as they were before. And I think the competition is a little better.
And Jeter works the walk to start the 8th. I really felt, based on the way the 8 playoff teams were playing going into the postseason, that whoever came out of the National League should be favored in the World Series against the American League pennant winner.
That's the way I felt at the time also.
How about now?
I'm not so sure now. Because I thought the Giants were one of the best teams in the league. They're gone. And I think the Mets and the Cardinals, the 2 teams to the left, I think the Yankees and the Mariners both match up very well with those 2 teams.
Justice is 0 for 2 with a walk. For what it may be worth, the American League representative would have games 1, 2, 6, and 7 if necessary at home in the World Series. If the Yankees win this game, though, in LCS play in the 2 leagues, the road team will have won 6 of 7. The only home victory the Yankees win in Game 2 Wednesday afternoon at Yankee Stadium. Justice with a drive to deep center. It sounded good off the bat. Cameron to the wall. It's gone. The Mariners have scored 5 runs in this entire series. You can't like their chances of scoring 5 runs in the next 2 innings.
Well, we talked about a good team. This is a good team. They're playing like a good team again. And Justice hits a bomb. This is a big fly right here. We saw Cameron climb up on the wall, but he has no chance.
He'd have to climb the wall and board a plane to catch this one. Breaking ball for a strike to Bernie Williams. Dead silence at Safeco. And some of the fans into the aisles and heading for the exits. Two. It begins to look as if first game winner Freddie Garcia will have to do it again if the Mariners are to stay alive and send this series back to New York. There's Garcia. This one is hit hard down the right field line, but foul.
If you're the Mariners, you split the 2 in New York and you were coming home, you had to feel good about yourselves. You say, well, if we can win 2 out of 3 here, go back and split in New York again, obviously that means you win the series. So they had to feel like they'd accomplished a lot by winning the first game in New York. But they've come home and they just have not been able to hit. And again, you can contribute a lot of this to the Yankee pitching, but not all of it.
Down and away, 1-2. Well, 2 factors converged in a way that spelled bad news tonight for Seattle. Clemens was on, and they came in slumping. And this was not the pitcher to break out of a slump against tonight.
Not tonight.
Mesa working from the stretch, as most relievers do these days, even with the bases empty. Guillen short hops the ball off Williams' bat and throws him out.
Nice play there by Guillen.
Seattle, by the way, is now hitting 185 in the series. Golf returns to NBC next Saturday at 12 noon Eastern as NBC presents the President's Cup. 2 years ago, Team USA suffered their first ever defeat in President's Cup play. Now Tiger Woods leads the Americans on their home soil as they begin their mission to win the cup back from Greg Norman and the international team. The President's Cup coverage begins next Saturday, 12 noon Eastern on NBC. Ball 1 to Tino Martinez. Five runs on 5 hits for the Yanks, but 2 of the 5 were home runs. A 3-run shot by Jeter and a 2-run blast from Justice. 1-1. Lou Piniella told Jim Gray before the game that he doesn't like team meetings generally. You're a guy who's been talked about as a managerial possibility, and you were always a leader on the clubs you played with. Is this the time, down 3-1, the bat's silent, is this the time to call a meeting, assuming they are down 3-1, before Game 5?
Well, see, I don't agree that managers shouldn't call meetings, and especially if they're in important situations. I think they need to make sure that everyone's on the same page.
In the air to left center field, Martin over, and the left fielder takes it.
And I believe that you have to make sure that everyone on the ball club understands what you're up against and what you're doing in a playoff situation. A lot of these players have never played in the playoffs before. I think they need to understand what the playoffs are. You know, a lot of people will say you play the playoffs just like you played last week's game. Well, I disagree, because anyone that tells you that it's just like a regular season game, they've never won anything, because everything is turned up a notch. And I think you have to make sure that your team knows that. Now, whether you have to call a meeting to do that or not, I don't know. But you have to have someone on the ball club to make sure that all the players understand that.
Strike 1 to Posada. Jim Gray has a follow-up. Jim?
Well, Lou Piniella did tell me before the interview, Joe and Bob, that he did meet with some of the guys individually. He said 7 or 8 of them, that he did get together with them, go over some of the individual things about Roger Clemens, about hitting in general, and about just getting the mood of the team back in the swing of things and trying to break out of this thing. He didn't want to do it collectively because he said that's not his style, but he wanted to emphasize that he did get together with several of them individually.
Good point, Jim. That's very important, because that's what I was saying. It's not necessary that you always have meetings. You have to make sure that everyone knows what they're supposed to do, and he knows the guys that he needs to talk to. So I think that he did do the job correctly.
Bases 1-1 to Posada is in there. You played for a number of managers, but most prominently the Hall of Fame skipper Sparky Anderson. Was he big on meetings?
No, he wasn't. I remember Sparky said once, I don't want to have a lot of meetings, you know, and I don't believe in a lot of meetings. Line drive caught by Rodriguez at short.
But the Yankees tack on 2 more on Justice's homer in the 8th. 5-run bulge for Clemens. Here's the Morgan Stanley Dean Witter well-connected play of the game after Al Martin spoiled the no-hit bid with a leadoff double in the 7th. Clemens proceeded to strike out the side. The last one a called third strike on Mike Cameron, his 11th K of the night. Cameron was the tying run at the plate because there was a walk to Olerud mixed in. That's the only thing resembling a threat that Seattle has had in this ball game. New left fielder for New York. After homering, David Justice gets the rest of the game off, and Clay Bellinger replaces him in left. Bottom of the order in the bottom of the 8th. Ian Bell and Wilson are scheduled, although Wilson might not bat. The homer by Justice may increase the likelihood that Clemens, if he continues to sail along, gets to throw a complete game. Two and 0 to Guillen. Same 2, Nelson and Stanton throwing once more in the Yankee bullpen. Guillen likely taking here, and it's a strike. Earlier, Joe, you raised the question about Nolan Ryan's one-hitters.
Yes.
He had the 7 no-hitters. He threw 12 career one-hitters, tying Bob Feller for the record in that department. Feller threw 3 no-hitters and 12 career one-hitters.
That's amazing. I mean, to have 7 no-hitters and 12 one-hitters.
Clemens has done everything else you can possibly do besides throw a no-hitter in his career. Just about the only highlight that has eluded him now that he had a World Series victory last October against Atlanta. He won the clinching 4th game of the Yankees sweep. 5 times a 20-game winner, 5 times the Cy Young Award winner, 5 times the strikeout leader in the American League. And there's his 12th of this game. At least 1 in every inning. 6 times he's led the American League in earned run average, and considering how overpowering he's been for 17 big league seasons, as you said, Joe, it's very surprising that he hasn't recorded a no-hitter. If he holds the Mariners hitless the rest of this game, it'll be his 2nd career one-hitter.
A lot of it has to do with the fact that he's a power pitcher and most of the hitters know what's coming. You know you're going to get something hard. It's going to be a fastball or a slider. He didn't add the forkball until later in his career, the splitter, I should say. And a lot of times there's some pretty good fastball hitters in the league, which makes it more impressive what Nolan Ryan did, because he was basically a fastball pitcher. Had a great curveball as well, but the fastball is what he used to dominate the hitters with.
Bell lofts one to left. There's a chance for Bellinger just in the game. 2 quick outs in the 8th, and Raul Ibanez will bat for the catcher Dan Wilson. So Ibanez hitless in his 3 at-bats in this series. A .229 hitter in limited duty with a couple of homers during the season. Coming off the bench and trying to catch up with a fastball that's been clocked at 98 at one point tonight and 96 in this inning.
And a splitter at 89 and 90 miles an hour. That's I think that has been the key pitch for him, because he's been able to keep it down. A lot of times you'll hang the splitter and then it becomes a mediocre fastball and guys can get base hits on it. But this splitter is always down and it's always going farther down. So he's been able to he was just in charge of everything tonight. He had complete control of all of his pitches. And even when he wanted to throw a slider, he threw it for a strike whenever he wanted to. He struck Edgar Martinez out with a slider, and he had not been throwing any, so he surprised Edgar with it.
And the 1-2 pitch to Ibanez. Down he goes. If anything, he seems to be getting stronger. Struck out the side in the 7th. Fanned 2 more in the 8th. 13 for the game. A vintage Clemens performance.
Is a News 4 news break. NBC's coverage of the American League Championship Series is brought to you by NASCAR Heat for PC and the PlayStation game console. The only game that brings the heat home. By Chevrolet Trucks, the most dependable, longest-lasting trucks on the road. And by Wendy's Bacon Mushroom Melt. When you gotta have one, you gotta have one.
Olympic champion Alexei Nemov was the most decorated athlete at the past 2 Olympics, winning 12 medals. Now Nemov and the best U.S. and international gymnasts performed some of their favorite routines in the 2000 Tour of World Gymnastics Champions. That's tomorrow at 1 Eastern on NBC, followed by the Gravity Games at 2 Eastern, including this week inliners taking it to the extreme in the high-flying street skating finals, which I know is a favorite of yours, Joe. Then we'll be back here for Game 5. Question is it the last game of this ALCS? Nagel for the Yanks. Garcia for the Mariners. Paniagua out of the bullpen to work the top of the 9th. Paniagua has been very effective in this postseason. Joe Oliver is the new catcher. Ibanez pinch hit for Wilson and didn't fare any better than most of the rest of the Mariner hitters tonight. He became strikeout victim number 13 for Clemens. Paniagua, 27-year-old out of the Dominican Republic, gets a called strike to Paul O'Neill, who'll be followed by Soho and Brocious here in the 9th. There's Doc Gooden getting loose. A high pop. Backpedaling is Rodriguez. 1 out.
I just think Doc is getting some throwing in, Bob, because I'm sure Roger Clemens is going to go back out there.
In preparation for spring training, perhaps. The Yankees have Jose Canseco in uniform but inactive, a former MVP. They have 2 former Cy Young Award winners, Dwight Gooden and David Cone, who in effect are inactive. They are unlikely to be used in game situations unless it's 10-0 or 11-0. Soho sits down. Whether or not this was a message of some kind is debatable. It appeared to just get away from Paniagua.
Yeah, I believe that ball just got away because everything is calmed down between the 2 ball clubs since the first couple of innings.
So the Yankees may have the most honored group of spectators in uniform that we've ever seen. Cone, Gooden, Canseco.
Actually, I mean, you never know if any of those guys are going to make the Hall of Fame or not. So you could have Hall of Famers in David Cone and Dwight Gooden and Jose Canseco sitting around, because all of them are going to continue to play and they're going to continue to add to their numbers.
All of them will receive consideration. As recently as a year ago, Cone was starting in the World Series for the Yanks.
And Canseco's closing in on 500 home runs. And I think Gooden has 195 wins and Cone 194. And you get well over 200, you always have a shot at being elected.
Here's Paniagua's 1-2 pitch to Soho, who fouls it off. Paniagua always had the good fastball in the mid-90s and the forkball, but prior to this year he lacked control. Last season he walked 52 in 77 innings of work. This year he's been a lot better at finding the strike zone.
he's still learning how to pitch, so to speak, and he's going to get better. But he has a great arm and a great fastball.
Two and 2 to Soho, who's 0 for 3 in the game. In the bottom of the ninth, Seattle has the top of the order due. Javier, Martin, and Rodriguez. Martin has the only hit in the game off Clemens. A 7th inning double. Soho drives one to left. Martin backpedals to take it. So now it'll be Brocious, whose 2-out single in the 5th in a scoreless game was followed by a walk to Knobloch and then the homer by Jeter. It was 3-0 in the 5th. It became 5-0 in the 8th on a 2-run bomb to dead center by David Justice. Fastball is high. Pop back, Oliver for a look, but it's in the seats. Reflecting on that situation with Gooden and Cone and Canseco shows you how fortunes can change in this game, especially for Cone and Canseco, each of whom had a big year last year.
Good point.
And Cone, one of the great playoff and World Series pitchers of his generation, but just didn't have it this year. Cameron in center tucks that one away to retire Brocious. Paniagua works a 1-2-3 ninth, and now Clemens will try to put the finishing touches on a masterpiece.
Discover what millions of Americans already know.
Tonight's all-new Saturday Night Live is hosted by Kate Hudson.
Well, you should celebrate and treat yourself to a professional haircut.
With musical guest Radiohead. So, what's up in dress rehearsal right now? Please tell me you got that on tape.
Roger Clemens, 13 strikeouts, 1 hit through 8 innings of work. Stan Javier is fanned twice. He skies one down the left field line. It's out of play. The man who got the lone hit off Clemens, Al Martin, is on deck. And so far as I can recall, Joe, that's really the only ball that has been hit hard against the Rocket all night.
Well, you're right. That's the only ball that we thought was going to be a base hit. It's the one that was a base hit. You mentioned John Olerud earlier, hit one up the middle, but he was jammed. It was really just a little soft fly ball. It was an easy play for Luis Sojo.
Bouncing ball foul, 0-2.
But we have not seen great plays defensively to help keep the no-hitter intact. He's just been on top of his game, and that's an overpowering pitcher.
Tino Martinez actually got a little piece of Martin's double. It would have been a spectacular play. It went off the tip of his glove and into the right field corner. Strikeout number 14, which is 1 away from the League Championship Series record set in the National League by Livan Hernandez, then with Florida, against Atlanta in 1997. Here's the base hit, leading off in the 7th. Martinez got a glove on it, but couldn't save the no-hitter.
But the one thing you always like for it to be, you know, in a situation like this, for the hit to be a clean hit, and that was a clean base hit.
Clemens has now thrown 130 pitches. There's no way Torre lets him throw that many, even on 6 days rest, unless he's working on a masterpiece like this. And the lead is comfortable at 5-0. 0-2.
Good splitter again on the outside corner. Martin, again, a good fastball hitter, so he goes the other way with him. Throws him some off-speed stuff.
In the dirt. Don Larson's perfect game in the 1956 World Series is still the only postseason no-hitter. And of course, there are two distinctions. A, it was in the World Series, and B, it was a perfect game. But we may be seeing our second one-hitter in a week. Bobby Jones threw that beauty at Shea Stadium for the Mets against the Giants to close out the division series. And here's Clemens working on a game that may be even better.
Well, he was more overpowering. I don't know if you can pitch better than Bobby Jones did last Sunday against the Giants, because there were 9 innings in a ball game. 8 of those innings he retired the Giants in order 1, 2, 3. But this has been an overpowering performance by Roger Clemens with the 14 strikeouts.
Splitter grip, and he rolls it foul. He has walked but 2. There was 1 inning where the Mariners threatened. In that 7th, following the leadoff double by Martin, he struck out Rodriguez and Martinez. Then Olerud walked with 2 out to bring Cameron to the plate, then representing the tying run. He got him on a called 3rd strike on a 3-2 pitch to conclude the inning. Another 1-2 to Martin, misses high and away. Struck him out for number 15. That's an ALCS record. And ties the overall record.
Well, this tells you something when a guy like Roger Clemens can throw the fastball right by a good fastball hitter like Al Martin. True, there are 2 strikes on him, so he has to wait a little longer. But Roger just threw a fastball right by a fastball hitter.
Here's a foregone conclusion. Roger Clemens would be the Chevy player of the game. How appropriate would this be? There's something going on between Clemens and Rodriguez could be the last hitter of the night. The Rocket walked him in the 1st after throwing a couple, apparently intentionally, up under his chin. He struck him out the next 2 times. It's Jeter who finishes with a throw to Martinez, who stays on the bag, and this is one of the great performances in a Hall of Fame career. A complete game, 1-hit shutout with 15 strikeouts. A new ALCS record for a 9-inning game. I think Mike Mussina of the Orioles may have had 15 strikeouts in an extra inning game against Cleveland in the ALCS a few years back. Mike Boddicker of the Orioles had a 14 strikeout performance in the 80s against the White Sox in the ALCS. This is the most ever in a 15-inning game in the American League, and ties the Major League record for the LCS, which Clemens now shares with Livan Hernandez. What a performance.
Well, a great performance by Clemens. He was just overpowering from the 1st inning on. He struck out 2 in the 1st inning, and he strikes out 2 in the 9th inning. And he was just dominant in between, and there Joe Torre gives him a hug. And this was Roger's night, and he actually deserves it. I mean, let's face it, they had lost 10 of the 14 games that he had started in the postseason, and now he gets off of that hook and wins one.
He got 7 of his 15 strikeouts in the last 3 innings, and he's with Jimmy Roberts.
All right, Bob, thanks very much. Roger, I'm not exactly sure where to start. Is it possible to have a masterpiece like this yet to be disappointed because it was a 1-hitter instead of a no-hitter?
Well, we wanted to win the ball game, and you know, there's just a brief moment where I walked into the trainer's room and I was changing jerseys in between innings, where I saw that in the 4th or 5th inning I haven't given up a hit yet. So, and I just kept trying to remind myself, you know, that let's win this ball game and just stay out there and make good quality pitches. And I felt strong. The ball was jumping out of my hand early with the extra day's rest, so I knew I was going to have to try and channel some of that emotion and get it down in the zone.
Tell me what this means to you. You had struggled so much in the postseason before. Perhaps you had put too much pressure on yourself. You come out here, you do something like this and put your team in a position where, in an unlikely fashion, you can go to the World Series yet again. What does it mean to you?
Well, you know, I get tired of people thinking that I'm trying too hard or overthrowing. It's the playoffs, and I'm enjoying these moments right now. At this stage of my career, you know, I think I'm just as intense on a Saturday afternoon in the middle of July. So, I'm out there trying as hard as I can all the time. And, you know, again, I think what was beneficial for me today is I had 3 pitches. My splitty was working, and the fastball was alive, and I had a great slider too. So I had 3 pitches working for me, and that's the key.
All right, Roger Clemens, congratulations, a terrific game. 15 strikeouts, your second complete game of the year. Bob, back up to you.
Jimmy, thanks very much. And stop the presses. The game was played in 2 hours and 59 minutes. A game that actually took less than 3 hours. Although we could have watched Clemens in this kind of groove all night long. This was wonderful. So again, the final score, the Yankees 5 and the Mariners nothing. Tomorrow at 4 Eastern time, join us as the Yankees and Mariners are back here at Safeco Field for Game 5. It'll be Garcia against Nagel. Coming up next, it's amazing videos. Then tonight, following your late local news, it's an all-new Saturday Night Live with guest host Kate Hudson and the music of Radiohead. For Joe Morgan, Jim Gray, and Jimmy Roberts, I'm Bob Costas saying so long from Seattle. This has been a presentation of NBC Sports. We'll see you tomorrow with Game 5.